And do you feel having that stability has helped?
Sure.
Has helped you?
Sure. Yeah. I'm, again, to each his own, right? But for me, I'm at peace.
And sustaining a marriage with the rock and roll lifestyle.
But you're asking from a point of view of the cliche. What cliche? Bono's, you know, Bruce, Bono, me, you know, there's a whole bunch of guys. It's just, the rest of it's the cliche. People expect that. Oh, yeah, I read that in a book. What book? No.
Have there been any secrets to sustain it, though? A secret ingredient that helps?
It's hard work. You take some punches, you give some punches. It is what it is. But it has nothing to do with the job.
Jon, you're a father of 4. Do you ever feel that have you been there enough? The things that you've missed and...
Oh, hell no. You know, there are years that you're away, and there are years that you're home. And that's the difference. You know, other dads go to work 9 to 5 and come home every night, but they're gone 9 to 5. Chances are, you know, I'm home 9 to 5 for a year at a time. They're all like, get him out of the house, get him out. There's a lot of that going on in my house. Get him out. You know, no, I'm there a lot.
And what kind of values do you teach your children? Do you teach them to follow their hearts, their minds? What if they wanted to be musicians like their father?
Should they choose this profession because it was, you know, in their blood, I certainly would support it. But I never have encouraged them to, you know, pursue it based on the family name or something like that. My eldest is just in college now, and my eldest son is just about to apply for college as. But other than getting an education so they can make a decision, it's up to them.
How did they cope with everyone knowing who their dad is?
I think it's shit. They're not impressed. You know, I'm sure there's been incidents. I remember more in my brother's lives than I do in my children's lives, because it was at the height of Slippery and Wet in New Jersey and Blaze of Glory, and they were still in school. You know, and I was Justin Bieber of my era. You know?
Coming up, Jon defends his iTunes outburst.
I don't care if I got chastised for it. I could still take that fight anytime.
And President Clinton tells me why Jon's philanthropy makes a difference.
Because I think it'll inspire other people to follow his lead.
I'm in Philadelphia for an exclusive interview with Jon Bon Jovi, who's been at the helm of one of the world's biggest rock bands for 30 years. Their recent sellout global tours brought in over $200 million US. Despite all this, the applause is not his greatest reward.
I'm not one of those guys that needs that applause. There are many journeymen I know who live for that have the entourage and live and love the spotlight. Where we are today is certainly as far away from that as you can get. That has nothing to do with any decision I make. The greatest joy I get out of this job that I have is the creation, writing. Then the second step is the recording, because you want to see if what you put on paper is now going to come to life. And then finally, you want to share it with people. But in that order.
But there are not many people, Jon, that can stand up on a stage and have hundreds of thousands of fans screaming at you.
There are those who thrive on that. I promise you I do not. I like it. It's a great job. Great bragging rights. You know, the biggest touring band on the planet. Really nice. On the other hand, it's not what I am. You know, it's just what I do. That's just what I do.
It is very unusual, though, a man of your success, global success. Anywhere you go in the world, you're recognized. As you've said, you know, you've had every accolade possible, but there's this humility that is there.
I didn't cure cancer. You know, it's really not that big a deal to rhyme a couple lines every once in a while and go out there and and not be the fat Elvis. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. It takes dedication and perseverance, yeah. But it's not the cure for cancer. So, you know, I don't know, maybe that was one of the things that harkens back to my youth. I do remember telling myself as a young man, and I'm glad that I lived up to those words today, I wasn't going to be 50 years old, painting my fingernails black and writing bitch on my belly. And I'm proud of what we've accomplished. It is what it is.
You took some heat for what you said about iTunes. Can you tell me what happened at that time?
I will stand by that statement about iTunes forever. And I know I got in hot water, but it didn't give me a chance to discuss it, when in truth, if you wanted to do a book, you need to present a beginning, a middle, and an end of the book in order for the story to complete. It's much like that with an album. If you really wanted to do the consumer a favor, sell it to them for $9.99, tell them $7.99, because now we don't have to worry about manufacturing album covers and, cutting down trees. So you're being environmentally sound, you're being economically sound. Don't tell me how the consumer said, well, I didn't want that track, I only wanted the 2 good tracks. Take it back 2 steps and have good A&R guys tell the artist to go home and keep writing. But a work of art needs to be presented as a work of art. I spend 6 or 8 or 10 months in a recording studio slaving over snare drum sounds or every background vocal being perfect. And for what? To listen on 10-cent earbuds? That it defeats the whole purpose. So, I don't care if I got chastised for it. I could still take that fight anytime.
Jon's fight for what he believes in has led him to the neighborhoods of North Philadelphia, where his vision for empowering those in need began.
Jon, you give back enormously, and you have formed the Soul Foundation. Where did that come from?
Finally, something interesting. Your
life is extraordinarily interesting.
No, it's not. One day I was in the hotel in Center City, and I was looking out of my gilded cage onto City Hall. There was a homeless man sleeping on a grate right in front of City Hall under a big statue of William Penn and all this glory of Philadelphia. And I said, I realized here's something that didn't care if you were black or white, Republican or Democrat, young or old. Homelessness and the issue of affordable housing at this time in 2005 was really something that we could get involved in. And I found, through a dear friend of mine who was born and raised here, the expert in the field, Sister Mary Scullion, in this place called Project Home. Subsequently, we've built 260 units now of houses or apartments or rentals, varying sizes and shapes here and across the country, which then led to the Soul Kitchen and what we're doing now.
Jon invited me to his hometown of Red Bank, New Jersey, for the launch of his Soul Kitchen.
Good afternoon and welcome to the grand opening of the Jbj Soul Kitchen. I'd like to thank so very many here, beginning with our mayor, Mayor Mena.
A community restaurant built on his ethos of making a difference.
When I first met Jon, I just found him to be so down to earth. Someone who really wanted to understand, and someone who had great leadership skills and passion for social and economic justice in our community.
Can you tell me the concept behind your Soul Foundation?
No, I just want to hear you keep talking like that.
Oh, okay. Well, it's been there for 5 years.
You. Welcome. This is the Soul Kitchen. This is the next phase of the foundation's work. 1 in 6 Americans are now actually going to bed hungry, and that's mind-boggling. 1 in 5 American households are at or below the poverty level, which is $24,000 for a family of 4. Mind-boggling. The simple concept is that you come here, you eat. You or I come here, you leave a donation based on a minimum donation. If you can't afford to pay, that's fine. You volunteer. You either work as a busboy, a waiter, or waitress, work in our gardens, wash dishes. If you say, I'm not a people person, not a problem. We'll take you to the food pantry. You could stock bags for those in need. So we're feeding people, bringing community together, and those who are desirous of change and want to see it affected, come here and eat, because you're paying for someone's meal that's could be at the next table.
You're in your 5th year of the Soul Foundation. What are your immediate goals? Where would you like it to go?
I'd like to grow this concept because we're creating jobs. These guys, got full-time positions out of it. We're creating jobs. We're creating volunteers and job training so you can go through the cycle and eventually get a job. We have the support of this community wholeheartedly. And then we think it can be replicated.